Okay, hi. So yes, I have not posted a video in over 2 months, but now I'm back and I kind of wanted to sit down and make a video just sort of explaining what has been going on in my life because a lot has changed in the past few months. If you don't care to hear any of that, the long story short of it is that I'm back now. I will be back to posting my weekly videos on Thursdays. I wanted to make sure I was in a place where I knew I could get back on my weekly schedule before I started making videos again. And I am in that place now, finally, after 2 very long months. I've missed this. And I've missed writing. I haven't written in over 2 months either, basically since mid-May. I think the last video I posted was my 10K words in 1 day writing vlog, and that literally was the last time I wrote anything. And so I'm excited to finally be in a place where I can start making my videos again and start writing again and just sort of get back to normal. But yeah, for those of you who do want to know where the heck I've been for the past like 2.5 months, the first major thing that happened and sort of the instigator of the craziness that has been my life recently was we bought a house. Clearly you can see I'm in a different place than I usually am. I don't know if you can, but you might be able to see the paint swatches on the wall. We're working on figuring out what color we want to paint the living room right now, which is where I am currently. But yeah, I think I had mentioned in my vlogs previously that my husband and I were house hunting in this crazy market, which was an adventure. But we closed on this place in mid-May. This is actually a townhouse, which we weren't looking at first. We were just looking at like detached single family homes, but we sort of expanded our search to townhouses, and I'm so glad we did because this is by far the place with like the most square footage that we were able to find. And so even though getting a place like this meant sacrificing a little bit of that like outdoor space that we wanted, we are so happy with where we ended up, and we're really glad that we actually won this offer bid challenge thing, because this is the 3rd place actually that we put an offer in, and we were searching for about 4 or 5 months, which all things considered is not too terrible considering the craziness that some people have to go through in this market. So that's the first major thing. Obviously, house hunting in general is kind of a time suck, and moving in general is kind of a time suck, but it's usually not a 2.5 month time suck. Life threw us a bit of a curveball. I'm not gonna get into too much detail about this because it's stuff that doesn't particularly just involve me, but my husband found out some information from work, which, the long story short of, put us in a place where we were unsure if we were going to be staying in Virginia, let alone in the house that we literally just bought. And so during that time of uncertainty, we were sort of having to plan for the worst case scenario, or not necessarily the worst case scenario, but just like the scenario where we have to immediately sell the house. And obviously, if you know anything about home buying, there's a lot of cost that is involved with buying a house or selling a house that isn't just like the actual purchase price. So there are closing fees, there's taxes you have to pay. If you're selling a house, the seller is usually the one who is covering the agent fees. So like, for example, us as buyers, we didn't have to pay our real estate agent anything. Her commission comes off of a percentage of the sale price paid for by the seller. But if we were going to have to sell this place immediately, of course, then we become that person who has to cover that cost for the next person. And so that's typically why you hear a lot of advice about don't buy a house unless you intend to stay there for about 5 years or more, because those 5 years are usually where you see the appreciation in the home value, and that value is able to sort of cover those costs, so you're not like going negative essentially in the money you're paying for a house. And so we obviously, in the scenario where we potentially had to move, we're not in the position where we could wait for that to happen. So our next best bet was to flip the place basically as soon as possible. In order to set ourselves up for the best possible outcome if we did have to move, we enacted our flipping plans pretty much immediately. So this place was really dated when we bought it, but that was sort of something that we were actually looking for. As we were searching for a house, we wanted something that we could put a little bit of sweat equity into, that we could improve during our time that we were living there. And so our initial plans were just to replace the floors because, y'all, this place was built in the 70s and I think the carpet had not been replaced since then. It was very gross. So we were gonna replace the carpet with a laminate, and then we were also just gonna paint the whole thing. And that was all we were gonna do when we first moved in, even though like the kitchen and the bathrooms and basically everything needed updating in the house. This place also has an unfinished basement, and so we were just gonna leave that untouched basically until we decided to work on it later. Yeah, so we did a lot more than that. We basically redid all of the bathrooms, we redid the kitchen, we've painted like everything. There's a few projects that are works in progress because obviously I'm sitting here in the house talking about the house. We didn't end up having to move, and so we were able to kind of like slow down a little bit and not have to quite finish everything, but we basically flipped the whole house, minus the basement. We originally thought, okay, we can just finish the basement and sell it like that because that was gonna be the biggest value add, but there was a whole like permitting process that we needed to go through, and it was gonna take longer than we wanted to spend on that, so we decided to just do the whole like rest of the house and leave the basement untouched. So that is still untouched, but everything else basically has been very updated. That's basically it. That's what I've been doing for the past 2.5 months, is working on this house pretty much every single day. We are lucky enough that my dad actually is a really big resource for stuff like that. He built the house that my parents live in. Not just that they like hired a builder to do it, like he was literally there screwing the studs together, doing the electrical work, digging the foundation, like all of that kind of stuff. And so he has a lot of experience with building, and so he was able to come up. My mom also was able to come up for part of the time. He came up twice to help us work on things. Cameron's dad was able to come down a few times to help us work on stuff, and so we are so fortunate that we have family who was able to come like behind us during that time and really just support us, not only like with their time and their knowledge and their labor, but just like emotionally. While we didn't know what was happening, we always knew that worst case scenario, if we're dead in the water, like we have people to fall back on. And so we're so grateful for all that they were able to do for us like during that time. That also meant that we were able to save a lot of money doing a lot of the work ourselves. So we didn't have to hire anyone out, and that also meant that we didn't have to wait to be on people's like work lists, you know what I mean? Because contractors are very busy at the moment. If anyone is interested, I can make like a little home tour video at some point. There are a few little things that I want to get done before I would do that, and I also want to finish unpacking because we still have not finished unpacking because the actual renovation stuff has taken up so much of our time. But let me know down below if you would be interested in something like that. I'll show you around, give you a little tour. And then I can also show you like before and afters on what this place looked like before, and then how like the work that we've done, what it looks like now, all that kind of stuff. That's another thing that like going into this, I was really looking forward to actually being able to make some videos about like the different renovations that we were gonna do. But because we had to go from like 0 to 100 so fast, I like didn't have time to film anything. I have a few like progress pictures and videos and stuff that I could put in a like tour video if I wanted, but it was literally insane how fast we had to like just hit the ground running with that. And then by extension, because we hit the ground running so fast, I have not had time to even think or consider about making YouTube videos or writing. Like, this has consumed my life for the past 2.5 months. And even now, there's still just so much to do that it's taking all of my self-control not to just like forget all of the house stuff and just spend all of my time writing again. But I'm getting back on a much more normal schedule now that things have slowed down and it's not like dire that we have to get things done. We can kind of do it more at our own pace. I think my balance on all of that is going to be a couple days of the week I'm going to be working on home stuff, a couple days I'm going to be writing, a couple days I'll have for YouTube, and so I'll be able to kind of like spread that out a little bit more too. I do have one other bit of exciting news that we found out in May. So in the middle of this, my husband and I found out that we were expecting a baby kitty. So this is Luna. She's like, I think around 16 or 17 weeks now. We don't know her exact birthday because she was a stray. My husband's cousin found her and rescued her, and she was very, very hungry and like so pitiful whenever we found her. She hadn't eaten in like a very long time, and they couldn't find the mother anywhere or the rest of the litter. And so they were trying to get her to eat. They ended up giving her to my husband's mom because she's fostered a lot of kittens before, and so she knows how to take care of them like really well. And she was able to get her to start eating. And so she and my sister-in-law were fostering her until we made the transition into the house and we actually got moved in, because we weren't allowed pets at our apartment before. Well, we were, but we would have had to pay like a security deposit and pet rent and all that kind of stuff, which is why we were waiting until we moved into a house to get any sort of pet. But yeah, we finally got her like a month ago, probably. She's a precious bean. She likes to claw and bite hands whenever she's feeling feisty, but she's like super cuddly and sweet whenever she's sleepy. Like, I'll be like sitting in the recliner doing work or whatever, and she'll just like come up and just lay on my chest and just sleep there, and it's the cutest thing ever. But yes, now Luna Baby is another thing that you have to expect in future writing vlogs. But yes, that is where I have been for the past 2 months. And as for what to expect going forward, like I said, I will be back to posting my weekly Thursday videos. For now, I'm still going to be holding off on my Ko-fi blog posts just because I don't quite have the time to add like one more thing back in, but I will be back to those eventually, and I will let you know whenever I start posting those weekly again as well. Like I said, there are still a few bigger projects to do around the house, but once those ones are done and we're down to like the little minor details, then I will probably be back to the Ko-fi posts. We'll be writing a lot more. I am definitely making an effort to carve out time for the YouTube and the writing now that the craziness has calmed down a little bit. We're still very busy. This summer has been one of the busiest of my life, but it's also been very rewarding. I'm so happy to have Luna Baby in our lives now. She's literally the cutest thing ever. I love her with all of my heart. And I've missed this. I've missed you guys so much. I've missed like interacting. I haven't been able to watch like any YouTube in the past 2 months either, and so I miss like getting to like watch and comment on other people's OtherTube videos as well, because this is just like such a fun community, and I've missed kind of having to retreat from it for a little bit. So I'm excited to be back. Thank you so much for watching and being patient with me in my absence, but I will finally see you again next week. Bye.